Preston Leinenbach for Otters TV here with Rebecca Herman, one of the Otters super fans, if you will, join us here on Otters TV and being a part of this special virtual broadcast that we are preparing for. Rebecca, I really appreciate your time and talking with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Preston. Love to talk about the Otters.
You specifically, you have a long listed background working with baseball, of course, not just loving baseball as a fan, but professionally in baseball as well. But for you, Tom, going kind of back on the timeline a little bit, when did you first start loving baseball and really start finding that, hey, this is a game that I truly want to follow and enjoy?
Well, it would probably go back pretty far as the first hints of it, and especially regarding Bosse Field, because my grandmother's house was on the corner of Heidelbach, right across from Bosse Field. So back in the day, she would take me to, well, it was triplets games at the time. So we did that. So I knew the stadium and started love that. She was probably my first introduction to baseball. Now I took a pause and, got into some other things and other things happen in life. Right. But then I had a son, Trevor, and he started playing Little League. And then all of a sudden he became a fanatic of baseball. So we were living in San Diego then. So we got season tickets for the Padres, and it kind of took off from there. We became a super fan of the Padres, believe it or not. So.
That's something we don't hear much out here in Evansville, is many San Diego Padres fans. Here it's usually Cardinals, the Reds, and you're either one of the Chicago teams right here, smack in the middle of the Midwest. So that's pretty interesting. And going into it, in terms, like I said, more your professional background, when did you start saying, hey, I really want to look into this game research-wise and really just start studying and analyzing the game and what goes into it?
Yeah, it was several years ago when I was actually at a conference, and someone that I was an officer of the conference at International Behavior and Applied Management. It's an academic group, and someone else was also a officer with me, who's a leadership professor at an East Coast school, and I'm leadership professor as well. But we both love baseball, and we're talking about it at the conference. We had lunch and said we should write a book, and we just kind of joked about it, right? Because you kind of do that when you're at a conference. I'm sure you've been to them, and you get all excited, and you think, ooh, we're going to conquer the world when we leave this conference, so we're so motivated. Then you get back home and life takes over. But we actually followed up, and had meetings about it. And it was like an October conference. And so we said, if we're going to do this, we probably, our best bet, and we came up with an idea. We wanted it to be about leadership in baseball, because since we're leadership professors.
Right.
And we had some probably not great ideas as far as how to go about this, because we didn't know what we were doing, to be perfectly honest. We thought we could contact MLB and get a press pass, and it just doesn't work that way, because each team owns their credentials, right? So that was interesting in itself. So we decided to split it up and thought we'd have our best chance at spring training. And I had been going to spring training in Arizona for many years. And it was very familiar, and he'd been several times to Florida. So I said, why don't you take the Grapefruit League teams, and I'll take the Cactus League teams. We'll split up and see what we can do. And it kind of took off from there, and trying to get our time with the team. And sometimes we didn't know who to call, and we would just call the ticket office and say, can you transfer me to the media relations person?
With your book that you helped co-write, of course, Lead Me Out to the Ballgame, Stories and Strategies to Develop Major League Leadership. So first of all, just kind of because I'm sure you can word it and phrase it better than I can, give us a little bit of a summary or a synopsis about what people may learn and take away from that book.
Yeah, it's basically, we spent 2 years interviewing people, over 100 players and 20 managers at the time. We used a qualitative research approach, had all of our interviews transcribed, put them into qualitative research software, and it came out with themes for us. So those themes are basically, how do you lead yourself? How do you lead others? How do you lead the game? Now I actually teach on that as well in my leadership class at Purdue Global. So we do a 3-week set of seminars where they learn about how how do I lead others with the tenets? And it's the tenets that we learned from the research in the book. And it's supported by other research, of course, for leadership. But it was fascinating. And that kind of did a springboard, right? Once you've done that, you start getting interviewed by various news outlets and sporting outlets. And then each of us started doing keynote speaking around the country on it. Became very popular topic because, if you're at a conference, you don't want to just hear someone just preach about leadership. You want to have some fun stories with it, right? You want to hear about what did Ron Washington have to say, or, what did Joe Madden do with his why did he dress people up in those crazy outfits? Why are they wearing onesies on a plane? So it just got really fun, and it kind of took off from there. And it's been one thing, I just kind of follow my heart as opportunities arise. And we started writing about Padres 360. Wayne and I had already been doing that because of being season ticket holders. So we were accustomed to interviewing players, talking to fans, finding out why people were fans of the Padres, what they hope to accomplish. So that kind of got us in the writing and interviewing mode, which led great to the book. And then, as you know, now we do Evansville Sports 360, where we love to talk to the Otters as well. So.
Yeah, for our fans who don't know, Rebecca and her husband Wayne, big Otters fans, run their own account, own blog, Evansville Sports 360. They talk to a lot of our players as well as our coaching staff as well. And one of our helpers and promoters of the Evansville Otters social media accounts as well. We definitely appreciate y'all doing that. And as part of that interview process, did you get to talk to front office at the major league level as well?
We did. I mean, it depended on the team, but a typical day, let's say I finally got in with the Los Angeles Angels. Going in, what they would say, arrive at, for your credential at 6:30 a.m. So you're thinking, wow, okay. So you would come in, and and originally, be honest, we did not plan on interviewing players. We were just looking for an interview with the manager. We wanted to get in and out, do that, and kind of, that's all we were looking for. But they just started sending me into clubhouses, and I'll be honest, it was a little stunning because I'd never been in a clubhouse, and you know what clubhouses look like. Guys are wearing towels, right? So, and they wanted me to interview them with a towel on. So, not me wearing a towel, but them. So I had to kind of get accustomed to that and remind myself that they were about my son's age. So, I pretended I was their mom, and, but learned to interview them and learn clubhouse protocol. And we kind of on the fly, Howard and I came up with questions that we would ask players because we hadn't planned to do that. So, and being leadership professors, we wanted to have a standardized set of questions, right? So we would spend that, and then they would usually have a team meeting, which we would take part in. Then they would go out and do some practice on the field, and we'd be able to be on the field and kind of talk to players while they were practicing or waiting to bat. And then usually after that, there would be a time where media would speak with the manager, and I would be invited to that and be able to ask questions. But then I had private time with the manager after that meeting, where I got to do my questions one-on-one and go through our standardized questions. We kind of wanted to learn about, how they get into management, who taught them about leadership, what are some of their greatest memories in baseball, things like that. And then it was pretty much, you would kind of be on your own for a bit. So I would fans would start coming in, and then I would start talking to fans to see, why are you fans of this team? Why do you come here? What do you like about this ballpark? Do you regularly come to spring training? Then when the game would start, I would go sit in the press box. And that gave me an opportunity to, quietly speak with, but it's a little lighter than, during regular MLB season, which I've done as well. But at spring training, it's a little more open, and I basically talked to so many of the sportscasters that were there to get their own stories and find out, what do you think of this person, or what have been your experience with this team? What would you ask if you could ask anything? So I tried to learn from them, and lots of times they would say, oh, I'm going to introduce you to somebody. And then someone would come by from the front office, and they'd say, oh, I want you to meet Rebecca, and she's working on a book. And so then they would let me talk to them. And then we'd stay for the post-game press conference as well with the media, and that would kind of wrap up. And it was typically a 12-hour day. Wow. So,
yeah, 12-hour days. I know exactly what that's like in baseball for sure. Once again,
people don't realize right? They have no
And of course,
clue
the longer the game,
that
the longer the
baseball
day.
teams,
Uh,
right? They have no idea.
No, no, it's quite the long day. And once again, the book, Lead Me Out to the Ballgame: Stories and Strategies to Develop Major League Leadership, co-author Rebecca Herman, as well as the other co-author Howard C. Farrell. I hope I'm saying that right.
Yes.
And but another thing that people I also don't really realize, like for us, for the Otters, I mean, we at max have a front office during the season of maybe 12 people during a normal year, should I say, plus our interns, of course, so maybe 20 people. So it's a pretty tight knit, close group. You know, everybody kind of is aware of everything that's going on. Whereas you get to these major league teams, the front offices are, I mean, 50, 60 on up,
Huge.
and there's a lot of people involved, and nearly half of them aren't even involved with the baseball side of things.
Yeah, I mean, of course, a huge part of a front office in Major League Baseball is the sales team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those that are selling the tickets, account reps, and then those that are account reps for the season ticket holders. And then you also have the community relations teams. I know you guys are doing a lot of community relations right now where we're not having baseball, and they
Right.
actually have full teams that, you know, go in the community and do that kind of thing year round. The Padres had a huge foundation that they worked with. I think every team has organizations that they support through their charitable contributions, which I found fascinating to learn about that, as well as the fact that players have charities they work through or contribute to, and so do a lot of the managers. So I think that heart piece sometimes gets overlooked and doesn't get talked about, you know, what people are doing in their communities,
Right. Yep.
and to give back and the good that's being done. People say, oh, they make a ton of money, but, you know, they don't, oh, they get to play baseball all day, but it's a job, right? I mean, they've got to practice their sport, they've got to stay in shape, and they're doing these other things in the community as well. So I don't think everyone, they just see the game that's out there. They're watching the 9 innings, right? That's all
Right.
they see.
That's exactly right. In fact, just the other day, I talked with Randy Wynn, our former starting pitcher here for the Evansville Otters, and where he with the Cincinnati Reds organization affiliated baseball, of course, and right now they have just as much free time as we do. And he was telling me that he's older than a lot of the guys he plays with, and he basically telling them like, hey, you know, yeah, college, high school and college is, you know, school's the most important thing. Then you have baseball for the fun part. But when you get to this level, baseball is a job. I mean, it just never stops.
Mm-hmm.
I know you mentioned some of the names that you had interviewed and talked to, but who are some of your favorites, whether it be managers or players that you talked to?
Well, I was really fortunate that I interviewed Mike Trout in his rookie season when he was first
Wow.
coming out. So that was pretty fun. Kind of crazy to think about that now. But I also, one of the really fun interviews was hysterical, was Pablo Sandoval.
The
He
Panda.
was with the Giants at the time, the Panda. And, you know, they've moved clubhouses now, but at that time, their spring training clubhouse was tiny. And when you first get there, there's so many people on the roster that it's like, you know, it's so close together. And he was like, you know, of course, they're running around with their funny little clothes on, but he had a new player in a cart and was pushing around in a laundry basket, saying that's, you know, that's his, you know, that's how you had to get around the clubhouse if you were new. And he was just laughing. And meanwhile, the media director was like trying to get his attention because he was supposed to talk with me. And he finally did. And he talked about teamwork and talked about how that was part of teamwork and everything else. But just watching him be just really fun and jovial in the clubhouse, I think that's part of that culture that you want to create inside a clubhouse. You want to have that chemistry, and just have fun, because it's a job, but they should have fun as well. Otherwise it can be a grind,
Yeah.
because we know 2020 is not normal, right? But a typical season, you know, they're going to have at least 20 games at spring training. They're going to have 162 games. They hope to get in the playoffs. So you could be up around 200 games, right? Plus other practice. So that is a long season compared to other sports, for sure.
Yeah. You got to do something to kind of keep sane mentally throughout, like you said, the long season in a normal year. The other thing I want to talk to you about, Women in Baseball Week, as we're recording this, coming up here this month. I know, obviously, for Boston, the Evansville Otters and this area, everybody thinks, of course, the movie A League of Their Own, and obviously what that movie represented with the All-American Girls Professional League. And of course, here with the Racing Bell signs, you know, around the ballpark and stuff. But for you, what does that mean to you, and how special is it that we get to honor that and even talk about that.
Well, I think it's amazing. Of course, I'm a huge fan of the movie. I played a little extra, in the stands of the movie, sat on the first baseline there, but I can't even find myself. But I was there, and I still have the T-shirt to prove it. But so it was really a fun movie, and it wasn't until I was working on a project. I teach at Purdue Global, and Mitch Daniels, the president of the university, asked me to write a history class on 150 years of baseball last year, because it was Purdue's 150th anniversary and baseball's 150th anniversary. So I start digging into. I'm not a baseball historian. Well, I wasn't. I feel like I probably am now, but at that time I was not. So this is what I tell you about, how I just kind of take that path that people give me and just take the opportunity. So I started really digging in and learning about each decade of who was there, what they were doing, and everything else. And it was through that I really got connected with the All-American girls, not just the movie, but the people that really played, and found out they were having, at that point in time, their 75th anniversary reunion. And I'm like, what? So I called the president of the league and I said, can I come? And they're like, you got to pay this money overnight. Okay. And because it was really last minute, drove to Kansas City from Evansville, right? Because I was living in Evansville by that time. Drove to Kansas City, spent 5 days with the women. I was just in awe of them, and they are just such a hoot, and they are so much fun. It's amazing because they're all in their 80s and 90s, right. But you would never know that talking with them, right? So I just got really excited, and I found out they had this mission to bring baseball back for women. I mean, that's what they really want to do, and they've actually formed a corporation to do this. They actually have a partnership with people in Canada, and for this Baseball for Organization, these different organizations that are working for this. And I said, oh my gosh, I need to write about this. I need to get it out there, because if a big, huge fan like me did not know this, how many other people didn't know this? So then I started writing articles about that. And last fall, I presented at the International Women's Baseball and Society of American Baseball Research Conference in Scottsdale, and looked at what was happening internationally right now with women's baseball, and really how far behind the U.S. is. Because we started it, but now everyone else has flown with it, and we have kind of stayed steady or gone down. So that became a huge new kind of power thing. As a matter of fact, I just submitted a proposal yesterday to hopefully speak at the conference in September. What this year is focused on the Negro Leagues and women in baseball specific, anything we can do with that. So it's the 100th anniversary of the Negro League. So hoping my proposal gets accepted and I can speak on that topic. But yeah, I just got really excited. And how can I get out there and help promote that? What can we do? Now it's a new research stream for me. So I'm actually doing an analysis of the last 15 years of data on women in Major League Baseball teams and what level they're at, what they do. And I'm working on an academic paper as well to present on diversity in baseball. So I'm trying to approach it from a couple different angles, right? There's the academic side, but then there's also the baseball community, and then write it in a fun way for a blog to get it out there so people care, right? So people are like, what, women? Like when I was teaching this class on 150 years of baseball, people were stunned that we had women playing baseball today, that there was actually a World Cup for women. They didn't even know that, and these are baseball fans. So
you mentioned, especially like I guess at international world level, obviously everybody knows that it's kind of been a back and forth. I don't know if battle's the right word for it, to get baseball, the sport itself, back into the Olympics even. So in order to grow the game, I think it's so important to have those international competitions. Of course, a few years ago, the World Baseball Classic at the International was very, very entertaining. But that all sounds really awesome, and what you're working on, and we all can't wait to see the final product for that. For you and your husband, Wayne, you guys are season ticket holders, big fans of the Otters, and I want to send my best to Wayne and the rest of the family as well. But for you all, one, how did you all get into being, I guess, making it a family affair of being the huge Otters fans that you are? Because I know you said you grew up in Evansville, went to triplets games and Otters games early on. But how did you get Wayne to come and the rest of the family? And then also, what do you guys just love about the Otters and Bosley Field to come on out each and every night?
Well, I will say that while we were doing Padres 360, we spent a lot of time in minor league baseball. And we got to love although we're season ticket holders for the Padres at the time,
Hmm.
we actually had a huge heart for minor league baseball. Now, here in Evansville, the Otters are the game, right? The Otters
Right.
are what we have here, right? So now we do go to some University of Evansville games as well, because I graduated from U of E and I try to support baseball, although it's usually cold there. They play at a time of year that's very cold,
Yep, but Aces
but we try
Aces.
to
Yeah.
support Aces baseball as well. But it was not hard to convince Wayne. All I had to say was, "Do you want to?" And he's like, "When are we doing it?" I mean, he was just so excited because he loves old ballparks. He loves the whole idea of minor league and independent leagues. We visited
Yep.
quite a few independent teams around the country, and it was just a natural thing for us. I'm all about supporting our community. So pretty much wherever I've lived, I've tried to support the community by having season tickets to what's important to that community. And then we fell in love with you guys, the staff, and the players and the fans. I mean, my gosh, we're friends with so many other fans now. And the players are great to interview and follow their careers. They get
Yep.
called up. I mean, we get teary-eyed when they get called up. It's just a thrill for us, and it's pretty exciting. I do think that independent baseball is very fun to watch. It can be a lot more entertaining, I think, than Major League Baseball, and we are missing it desperately this year.
We
Uh,
all, yeah.
and
Yes.
oh my gosh, and our friends, we're missing, hanging out with people. We come in early and go get something to eat or sit and eat together at the ballpark, and just that whole camaraderie that you
Mhm.
have. And it feels like home. I think if you walk into Bossy Field and you don't feel like you're home, I have to question where you live, because it's cozy and everybody's friendly, and it's good baseball. I mean, that's what it comes
Mhm.
down to. It's good baseball.
Yeah, a lot of people they think, oh, independent baseball, not affiliated, they must not be very good players. But fact of the matter is, most of them are good enough for minor league baseball and affiliated baseball. It's just one, there's just not enough room for them on the rosters at the affiliated level, or there are some other maybe conflicting differences. Really, it's not that far apart when it comes to the difference between the independent and minor league baseball.
As they talk about reducing the number of teams in minor league
Mhm.
baseball, I think that's some huge although it's sad, I feel bad for those teams and such. I think there's some opportunities for independent ball
For sure,
to get
yeah.
some players that aren't going to get snagged up elsewhere. So I think when that happens, I think we're even going to see a higher level of player that probably never would have considered independent ball because there were more opportunities in minor league ball. So I think that, I mean, as much as I don't really like what they're doing with that, to be
Right.
honest, I think it's a great opportunity for indie ball.
Yeah, for independent baseball, great opportunity for the Frontier League, who has a high success rate over the course of its history. Now, of course, with the league expansion, there's more teams in the Frontier League, the American Association, the Atlantic League. There's so many independent leagues and teams that could benefit from, I guess, a negative thing for the minor league level. But we'll just have to wait and see,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully come out of this pandemic and ready to play baseball next year. But Rebecca, I really do
Yes.
appreciate the time, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I've missed you. So
we
it's fun to
we
chat and see your
Yeah,
face.
yeah, we miss all of you for sure. It just feels odd to be here at the ballpark and no one being here right now. So, for Rebecca
Yeah.
Herman, I'm Preston Leinenbach. This has been Otters TV.